In a construction site, a man runs to stop his coworker from digging any further. It seems they've found something dangerous buried in the ground. Soon the news reached Chief Superintendent Zuzana. The picture sent by the construction site appears to be an unexploded bomb, so an alarm is raised. Major Will is practicing at the shooting range, but he's interrupted by a phone call informing him of the incident. He also receives the picture and concludes it's a 1,000-pounder from World War II, so he asks for an 800-meter radius perimeter to be closed around the construction site. The police and the military quickly take over the area and start evacuating all the neighbors. In a building next to a bank, a cop knocks on an apartment and nobody comes out, so he assumes it's empty, but someone is moving in the darkness. Meanwhile, Rahim helps his elderly parents leave the building. When Will arrives at the construction site, he watches the bomb from afar and orders his men to drain the liquid surrounding it. They must also build some protection around the foreman's cabin, which they'll use as their command post. Then Will shows his team a video of a bomb that they couldn't contain 2 years ago. The explosion blew up a good part of that town, so they need to be careful. A map of the building site shows many electricity cables, so they'll have to cut off power in the whole area. On the street, a civilian ignores the cops' warnings and runs past them to try to retrieve his laptop, and the cops have to chase him. Moments later, the police announce that the area has been successfully evacuated, unaware that in the dark apartment Corrales and his friends are hiding. On the construction site, drones are sent out and Corporal Martin puts a hose in the water to start the draining. When the power is cut off, Corrales' team finally leaves the apartment and rushes to the basement, where they hid some tools earlier. The group sets up some lights while Corrales installs a camera outside the front door before locking it. Then he goes out through the back door and searches a dumpster for a hidden generator. He grabs its cables and sends them to the basement through a pipe. After Corrales installs another camera by the alley gate, the team starts breaking down the basement wall with power tools. On his way back, Corrales is startled by a fox, but ignores it. At the police station, Zuzana worries because she notices something moving on the street, so she asks her men to send the drone after it. However, it's just the fox. In the basement, the team keeps breaking down the several layers of wall using a variety of tools. Soon the bank alarms start ringing, so a bank worker tells the cops at the perimeter border that he should check on it. However, the cops tell him alarms are going off everywhere because of the power cut and send him away. When the team changes to a very noisy drill, Corrales goes outside to keep an eye on the street and the cameras. Anytime a police car passes by, he warns his friends so they stop the drilling until the car is gone. Martin informs Will that he's finished draining the water and finds him filling some glasses. Will claims it's a tradition to drink when a job has been finished. Then Will and Martin bring their equipment to start working on the bomb, so Zuzana sends all the police cars away. Will inspects the bomb and discovers it has a time fuse, which he confirms by using a mic to listen to the ticking. This can detonate any minute for the next 48 hours, so Will use a magnetic clock stopper to inhibit it. Once everything is connected, everyone runs to take cover and the clock stopper is activated. Thankfully, it successfully stops the clock without detonating it. Now they have to build a mitigation wall for a controlled explosion, which can take up to 5 hours. In the basement, the team hits steel, so they exchange the drill for a welding machine. Soon they finish the hole in the wall and finally gain access to a bank vault. After blocking the camera with a spray, they start opening all the boxes to steal tons of cash and jewelry. There also are gold bars, but they're too heavy, so they have to leave them. At the construction site, the soldiers keep building the wall, but Will notices Martin touching the bomb and blows a horn to make everyone leave. Martin has noticed that some spots on the bomb aren't rusty, which he considers an anomaly for a supposedly 80-year-old bomb. Will thinks it's just well preserved and sends the men back to work. Minutes later, a soldier notices on the scanner that the bomb is ticking again, which means the clock stopper is malfunctioning. All the soldiers run to take cover while Will gathers some tools. He'll have to drill the fuse and apply a solution to clog the mechanism. While Will starts to drill very slowly, an officer at the station notices a hotspot on the drone's thermal camera that isn't the soldier's generator. Zuzana immediately orders Will to stop the procedure because she'll send officers to check on this mysterious hotspot. Suddenly Will sees Martin too close to the bomb and yells at him to make him come back. Martin has moved the clock stopper because if it malfunctioned then it's his responsibility. Will tells him it's not worth his life and sends him to hide with the others. In the vault, Corrales takes something special from a particular box, and X reminds him to put it in the trolley. Corrales is reluctant but does as he says. Then Corrales sees the cops coming and tells his friends to freeze. He also turns off the generator. A police car parks in front of the building and tries to get inside, but the door is locked. They decide to search around the area, so Corrales tells his men to keep working quietly. While Zuzana notices that the hotspot has disappeared, the cops see Corrales in the alley. He immediately starts running and tells his team to hurry up, so they start filling and sealing their boxes as fast as possible. Since the officers can't follow Corrales because the gate is locked, they get tools from their car to open it. At the construction site, Will says he has a bad feeling about this and tells everyone to cover their ears and put on their helmets. Suddenly the ticking stops and the bomb blows up, sending a horrifying shock wave through the area. The explosion brings down the drones but at least doesn't cross the perimeter, so the evacuated people are fine. The whole army group has survived, although Will and a soldier are hurt. The cops have collapsed in the alley and are requesting backup, so Zuzana sends out more men. Corrales reunites with his team and grabs a box because he wants to check on the special object he stole. The others remind him that the cops are around and they need to hurry, but Corrales still takes a moment to confirm the object is fine. Now the team can split to follow the plan. Corrales and Y go to the roof and reveal 2 drones. One of them isn't working, but Corrales manages to fix it quickly. They put the boxes in the drones' cages and send them out. Officers see them in the sky but believe they're the police drones. After a few minutes of flying, the drones land on another roof where the boxes are picked up by a woman. Meanwhile, X and Z go to the street, where they've put fake construction warnings around a manhole. As they climb down, the police see them on the security footage. Zuzana wonders if they were employees working underground and didn't hear the warnings. While Corrales and Y leave the building, an officer leaves his wounded partner in the alley and breaks down a door to get in. On the street, a police car arrives and sees Corrales and Y, who immediately start running. A chase ensues, so the guys enter a parking lot, where they run in circles around walls and columns to confuse the cops and slow them down. Eventually they escape through the back door and the vehicle needs a moment to catch up, which gives the duo time to reach the manhole and descend into the sewers. Outside the perimeter, X and Z come out of a manhole and find their last team member, who is waiting for them in a van. Soon police cars surround the first manhole and cops get in the sewers too, forcing Corrales and Y to hide in another tunnel. At that moment the woman approaches the van and gives them the boxes with some cake she made for them. X pays her before sending her away. Since the cops come out of the sewers first, the van has no choice but to leave. At the construction site, Martin insists they should test the bomb's chemical signature because he thinks it isn't from World War II. Will looks uncomfortable and points out that this isn't their job anymore, so he passes the theory to Zuzana to let the police forensic team investigate. At that moment the officer in the building discovers the hole in the basement and the robbery, so he reports it and Zuzana sends out a team to look for the robbers. When Corrales and Y finally come out of the manhole, they call their friends and the van quickly picks them up. Corrales immediately asks for the boxes to check on his object again. When the van reaches a checkpoint, they give the police some fake paperwork to pretend they're workers from London Water. The officers believe them and let them pass. At the station, Zuzana looks at screenshots of the men who went into the sewers and notices the London Water logo on their clothes, so she asks her men to look for it. The cops at the checkpoint tell her about the van with the same logo that just left. Meanwhile, the robbers park in a garage, where they change the license plate and remove the logo from their clothes in the van. Then they return to the road and finally manage to leave the city, so they celebrate. While the police investigate the vault in the building, Rahim approaches the checkpoint and explains that his family has a flight to catch, so he wants to get their bags from his apartment. When the cops hear that he lives in the crime scene, they let the family come back for a witness statement. At the construction site, 2 superior officers arrive and demand to know why Will didn't report the anomaly, commenting on his history of insubordination. Will claims that his priority was to take care of the bomb and save the city. Then Will shares some drinks so his team can celebrate, although he pours his on the ground instead of drinking it. At the police station, Zuzana interrogates the family. Rahim explains that 2 men showed up at his door wearing blue overalls. They had papers from the landlord and asked for the keys to the basement cellar to put away some tools. His father didn't want to help them, but Rahim knows that as immigrants, whenever someone official-looking approaches them they have to cooperate to avoid trouble. Rahim gave the men the keys, but he had no idea of their real intentions. Eventually the robbers reach a safe house in the countryside, where they take off their clothes to burn them together with the van. Forced to undress, Y and Z reveal they stole a few extra things for themselves, including gold. Then Corrales finally shows them the contents of the special object, uncut diamonds, which are worth 30 million. He also promises it'll be evenly split. Afterward, Corrales goes outside to make a call. Suddenly 2 men burst into the room and tell the team to stand down. Z tries to confront them, but he's quickly beaten up. One of the men opens fire and hits Y, so the driver tackles him. X takes the chance to run and the armed man goes after him while the other guy beats up the driver. The chase continues upstairs, where X avoids getting shot by escaping through the window. When he lands in the backyard, Ludo points a gun at him. The team is locked up in the garage and keeps cursing Corrales, who just ignores them. In the living room, Corrales and the new people celebrate with a drink while splitting the loot, and it's revealed that Ludo is his cousin. Ludo wants to know how Corrales knew about the diamonds, so Corrales explains they belong to a man he used to work for and now he hates. Some time ago, Corrales would fly into conflict zones and pick up under the radar stones. Then he would smuggle them out on his person and deposit them in his boss's bank account. However, his boss betrayed him, so now Corrales is seeking revenge. When Ludo asks for a diamond, Corrales agrees to let him have one, but he snaps when Ludo asks for more. Sensing something suspicious, Ludo wants to change the arrangement and asks for 50% of everything. An argument ensues and they don't stop yelling until Ludo smashes a tool on the table, destroying one of the diamonds. This shouldn't be possible, so Corrales desperately checks the other diamonds and is devastated to learn they're all fake. Corrales swears he didn't know about this, but Ludo doesn't believe him and makes his men capture him. The thugs hold Corrales' hand on the table and Ludo smashes it with a tool, asking for the truth. Corrales insists he wasn't behind this, so Ludo takes all the loot and makes his men throw Corrales in the trunk of his car. The group leaves while the original team is still stuck in the garage. Meanwhile, all the residents are allowed to return to their homes. Power isn't back yet, so Raheem's family has to carry the father's wheelchair up the stairs. While the family grabs their things, Raheem goes to the roof and gets the bag of real diamonds from a pot. Then he returns to his room and cuts a suitcase's handle to hide the diamonds inside while assuring his brother that everything went fine. Will also goes home and showers to clean his wounds. At that moment he gets a call from his superior officers. It's been confirmed by forensics that the bomb isn't from World War II. In fact, it's been traced back to the army. We'll have to show up tomorrow morning to discuss this. In the safe house, X manages to cut his rope on the edge of the van door. After checking on a very weak Y, he frees the others too. The driver manages to start the van without keys and uses it to hit the door until it brings it down. Unfortunately, it's too late for Y, who dies in Z's arms. Then X finds his tablet and reveals that he put trackers in all of the team's clothes, so he can get Corrales' location. The trio leaves in 2 cars to go after him. In Ludo's trunk, Corrales texts a mysterious number saying he's in trouble and sends his location. He keeps yelling to ask Ludo for mercy, but Ludo just plays music to cover the noise. In the army storage room, Martin runs a few tests on the clock stopper and discovers an extra chip, which reveals that the device was tampered with. At the police station, the cops finally trace the apartment paperwork to Corrales, who has a long history of crime related to theft and diamond smuggling. At the airport, Raheem and his family go through check-in without issues. On the road, X finds Ludo and tries to block him, so Ludo turns his car to avoid him. However, his friends approach from the other side and push Ludo's vehicle through a fence. Then X and his men surround Ludo's group, breaking a window to fight them for a gun. In the trunk, Corrales hears the music stop and a few gunshots. When the trunk is finally open, Z and the driver drag Corrales out. X covers his head with a plastic bag and starts to choke him, but suddenly X is shot in the neck. After the driver is shot in the leg, he and Z run to take cover and Corrales takes the chance to run to the shooter, who turns out to be Will. They've been working together all along, and now they escape together too. After they're gone, Z and the driver search Ludo's car and are happy to find the bag with the cash and jewels. In the meantime, Zuzana finally receives Corrales' file and compares his picture to the security footage to confirm it's him. The officers immediately alert all airports and terminals. After stopping at a hotel to clean up, Corrales goes to the airport and manages to check in with a fake passport before they receive the alert. When Martin comes to the police station to tell Zuzana about the chip, he also tells her that Will is known for being mad after his time in Afghanistan. He also recognizes the picture of Raheem because he was Will's interpreter. It was Will who helped Raheem's whole family move to the USA for safety. Looking at the files, Zuzana notices that Corrales was also in Afghanistan working in a gemstone mine. She sends an alert to capture Will and Raheem too. While Will leaves the country on a private plane, police officers rush to the airport to look for Corrales since he was seen there. However, Corrales manages to avoid them and boards the plane to escape. Meanwhile, Zuzana learns that Raheem's brother was the night security guard on the construction site. When she and her men make it to Will's house, they find a workshop and notes on how to modify a bomb. There are also newspaper articles about a badly planned attack in Afghanistan that caused the deaths of several people. In Istanbul, Corrales, Will, and Raheem sell the diamonds for an insane amount of money, which they split evenly among the 3 of them. Afterward, they part ways so they can start a new life. 10 years ago, Corrales was double-crossed and kidnapped by his employer. He tried to fight the soldiers, who easily overpowered him and threw him in the back of a truck. In a town nearby, Will managed to make a peaceful deal with the locals thanks to Raheem's help. When they left town, Will and Raheem saw a vehicle on the road and ran to take cover, knowing it meant there were enemies hidden nearby. However, Will accidentally stepped on a pressure plate and the cables indicated that they were surrounded by explosives. At that moment, the trucks with Corrales' group showed up, and the hidden enemies opened fire to blow up one of them. While a gunfight began, Corrales ran to hide and found Will, so they made a deal to help each other. Will freed Corrales and sent him to find the box that controlled all the explosives. The enemies shot at him, but Will provided cover. Corrales dug in the ground until he found a box with a grenade, so Will guided him on how to locate the right cables and cut them. This time both Raheem and Will provided cover since the enemies kept shooting in their direction. Once Corrales cut all the cables, Will was able to step away, and Raheem killed the last few enemies. The group only got to celebrate for a second before the grenade in the box was activated, but luckily they ran fast enough to avoid the explosion. In the present, Corrales uses the money to fulfill his childhood dream of buying a natural reserve in Africa that supposedly has diamonds. Raheem is building a multi-family compound and starting his own company, although he had to force his relatives to change their names. Will donates most of his money to a charity dedicated to clearing unexploded ordnance worldwide. Make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you can watch more videos like this. Thanks for watching.